Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt that quiet, unsettling voice whisper, "Is this really all I'm meant to be?" It's a feeling that cuts deep, that haunting sense that somewhere along the way, you settled for less than what you're capable of. You go through the motions, you play the part, you meet expectations, but inside, there's a storm, a restlessness that won't go away. You know you are made for more. You can feel it in your chest, that burning desire to break free from average, to stop existing and start living. That's the truth most people ignore. They silence it, they bury it, but you can't, because deep down, you know that staying average is killing something powerful inside you. Average feels safe, it feels familiar. It's the comfort zone disguised as peace. You wake up, follow the routine, survive another day and call it progress. But the truth is, comfort is a slow death. It dulls your instincts, weakens your hunger, and convinces you that good enough is success. You tell yourself you'll start later. You'll try harder next time. But days turn into years, and suddenly you're living a story that doesn't belong to you. That's the danger of average. It makes you forget who you are meant to become. It replaces fire with fear, purpose with patterns, and the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to leave. But what if this moment, right now, is your wake-up call? What if this is the day you stop pretending that you're satisfied with mediocrity? What if everything you've been through, all the pain, all the disappointment, all the frustration, was preparing you to rise? You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to decide you're done being average. Because once you make that decision, everything begins to shift. You start to see yourself differently. You begin to move differently. You stop waiting for permission. You stop looking for validation. You stop needing anyone to believe in you because you finally start believing in yourself. And here's the truth that most never realize. The difference between those who stay average and those who rise above is not talent, luck, or opportunity. It's courage. The courage to keep going when no one notices. The courage to start again after failing. The courage to stand alone when the world tells you to fit in. The moment you choose courage over comfort, you rewrite your story. You break the invisible chains that have held you back. You stop being a spectator and become the creator of your life. Stay with me, because this is not just another motivational message. This is a mirror being held up to your soul, a reminder of what's been sleeping inside you. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand why you felt stuck, but you'll know exactly how to rise above it. You'll feel the shift, the one that turns fear into fuel and doubt into drive. You'll realize that the version of you you've been waiting to become isn't somewhere in the future. It's right here, right now, waiting for you to step up. You're not average. You never were. You just forgot. But by the time this ends, you'll remember. And once you remember, nothing will ever be the same again. You've spent so long carrying the weight of your potential that you've forgotten how powerful you truly are. Every time you wanted more, but settled for less, a small part of you dimmed its light. Every time you told yourself maybe tomorrow, you handed your dreams another excuse to wait. But here's the truth you need to face. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you dream of. The life you want will only begin when you stop negotiating with your own limits, when you stop letting fear dress itself up as logic, when you stop calling hesitation patience. You were not born to blend in with the crowd. You were born to stand out, to break patterns, to defy odds, to rise. And that begins the moment you decide to stop playing small. It's easy to believe that average is just the result of bad luck or lack of opportunity, but it's not. Average is a mindset. It's the quiet agreement you make with comfort. It's every time you choose what's easy over what's right. It's the moment you stop pushing when things get hard. But average has never built anything meaningful. Average has never written history. The people who change their lives, the people who change the world, are the ones who refuse to accept good enough. They're the ones who wake up every day hungry for growth, willing to face discomfort, ready to embrace the unknown. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Not skill, not privilege, but the decision to refuse average. You might think you're waiting for motivation, but motivation doesn't come first. Action does. The smallest act of courage can set off a chain reaction that changes everything. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need the right timing. You just need to move. Start where you are with what you have and take one honest step forward. The mind learns courage by doing. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, brick by brick, every time you choose to show up. Every time you push through fear instead of running from it. Every time you honor the voice inside that says, keep going. And that's the secret. Change doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you get stronger, when you stop wishing for less struggle and start demanding more from yourself. When you decide that no matter how many times you fall, you'll rise with more purpose. That's how you earn self-respect, not through words, but through consistent, quiet acts of courage. That's how you stop being a spectator and start becoming the kind of person others look up to. Somewhere deep inside you, there's a version of yourself that's fierce, focused, unstoppable. You can feel it. That pulse that quickens when you imagine the life you could have. That's not fantasy. That's truth calling you forward. You owe it to yourself to answer. Because the pain of staying average will always be heavier than the effort it takes to rise. The fear of failure fades, but the regret of inaction stays forever. This is your reminder that the world doesn't need another person who almost tried. It needs someone who decided to go all in. It needs you, awake, alive, and unapologetically becoming everything you were meant to be. There comes a point when you have to stop wishing for change and start demanding it from yourself. Not with frustration, not with guilt, but with unwavering honesty. You can't lie to yourself and expect to grow. You can't keep saying you want more while living like you're fine with less. Growth begins the moment you admit that your habits, your excuses, your comfort, they've been holding you back more than any circumstance ever could. The truth isn't always pleasant, but it's freeing. Because once you see it clearly, you can no longer hide behind someday. You start realizing that your life is built moment by what you tolerate. And every time you tolerate less than you deserve, you teach yourself that average is acceptable. But it's not. Not for you. Not anymore. Average dies the day you take responsibility. Complete, radical responsibility for everything in your life. No blaming, no complaining, no waiting. Just you, owning your path, your choices, your future. That's when something shifts inside. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start realizing it's happening through you. You begin to understand that everything you've experienced, the setbacks, the losses, the heartbreaks, were never punishments. They were invitations. Invitations to rise, to rebuild, to reclaim your power. Because resilience is not built in comfort. It's built in chaos. And every challenge that tried to break you was secretly shaping you into someone stronger. The truth is, you've already survived things that would have destroyed someone else. You've already proven your strength, even if you've forgotten it. You've endured pain, disappointment, failure, and you're still here. That means there's nothing average about you. You're already extraordinary. You just haven't been living like it. You've been playing small because the world told you to. Because it's easier to fit in than to stand out. Because comfort whispers that you'll be safe if you just stay where you are. But safety and greatness cannot coexist. You can't be both comfortable and fulfilled. One will always demand the sacrifice of the other. You weren't born for quiet mediocrity. You were born for impact, to leave something behind that proves you were here. And that starts by refusing to be defined by your past or your limitations. You are not your mistakes. You are not your circumstances. You are what you decide to do about them. You can rewrite everything starting today. You can transform frustration into focus, doubt into discipline, fear into fuel. That's how you take control of your story. Not by waiting for a miracle, but by becoming one. The mind will fight you at first. It will tell you to stay where it's safe. It will whisper that change is too hard, that people like you don't succeed, that it's too late. But that voice is lying. It's the echo of your past, trying to protect you from pain. You silence it not with words, but with action. Every time you push forward, every time you choose progress over comfort, that voice grows weaker until one day it disappears, and all that's left is the sound of your own power. That's when you'll know you've broken free. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And once you reach that point, there's no going back. You'll never settle for average again. The moment you decide to rise, life will test you. Not because you're unworthy, but because transformation demands proof. The universe will ask, how bad do you really want it? And it won't ask with words. It'll ask with challenges, setbacks, and silence. It'll strip away your comfort, confront your excuses, and show you exactly where your limits live. But those limits aren't there to stop you. They're there to reveal you. Because strength isn't built when everything goes right. It's built when everything feels impossible and you keep moving anyway. Every obstacle you face is not a wall, it's a doorway. And the only way through is forward. You will be tempted to quit. You will wonder if it's worth it. You will question yourself on the hardest days. But those are the exact moments that define you. Anyone can keep going when it's easy. It's when the world goes quiet, when no one's watching, when progress feels invisible. That's when warriors are made. Every time you show up despite the doubt, you're rewriting your identity. You're proving to yourself that you are more than your fear, more than your fatigue, more than the voice that says you can't. Each time you push through the pain, you're carving discipline into your soul. Discipline is the language of the uncommon. It's what separates those who wish from those who work. It's not glamorous. It's not always loud, but it's honest. It's the daily decision to do what you said you'd do, long after the feeling that inspired you has faded. And that's what kills average. Consistency. Not talent, not luck. Consistency. It's showing up when it's inconvenient, choosing growth when it hurts, and trusting the process when the results aren't visible yet. Because real change happens in silence, while others sleep, while others scroll, while others wait for the perfect moment. You're building, quietly, relentlessly. And here's what most people miss. Success doesn't give you freedom, discipline does. Freedom isn't the absence of effort, it's the result of effort. It's what happens when you stop being controlled by moods, emotions, and distractions. When you can command yourself, that's power. That's when life bends to your will instead of the other way around. Because once you've proven you can control yourself, there's nothing left that can control you. That's when you stop reacting and start creating. The fire inside you can't survive on motivation alone. Motivation fades, inspiration fades, but purpose endures. When you know why you're doing this, when you anchor your grind to something bigger than comfort, quitting stops being an option. You stop chasing quick results and start chasing mastery. You realize it's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent. You understand that every day you stay disciplined, you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to talk about change, because you are the change. So when the struggle comes, and it will, remember this. The pain you feel now is proof you're breaking through the shell of who you were. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. Every setback is sharpening you. Every delay is teaching you patience. Every challenge is building the version of you that refuses to settle. Stay with it, stay focused, stay hungry. Because once you learn to love the process more than the outcome, you'll never fear average again. You'll outgrow it forever. Most people never realize that the hardest battle they'll ever fight isn't with the world, it's with themselves. The enemy isn't out there. It's not the people who doubt you or the obstacles that stand in your way. It's the part of you that whispers, "You're not ready. You're not enough. You'll fail again." That voice lives in every one of us, and if you let it, it will chain you to mediocrity. But once you recognize it for what it is, fear disguised as logic, you take away its power. You see, the voice never really goes away. You just get stronger than it. You start replacing its doubt with evidence of your own resilience. Every time you take a step forward, every time you prove it wrong, that voice gets quieter and your strength gets louder. Average people spend their lives negotiating with their fears. Extraordinary people confront them. Fear will tell you to wait, to stay small, to keep your head down. It will promise you safety, but what it really offers is stagnation. Because fear doesn't disappear when you hide from it. It grows. It feeds on your hesitation. But the moment you face it, it begins to shrink. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. The fear doesn't vanish, but it loses control over you. And the more you move through it, the freer you become. That's how warriors are built. Not in moments of comfort, but in the fire of resistance. Every time you confront your fear, you reclaim a piece of your power. You start realizing that fear was never a signal to stop. It was a signal to step up. It means you're standing at the edge of growth. It means you're about to cross into a new version of yourself. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it demands transformation. It asks you to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be. That's why so many never change, because letting go hurts. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is proof that you're evolving. It's the sound of weakness leaving your body, the breaking of the shell that kept you small. When you stop fearing pain, everything changes. You start chasing challenge instead of avoiding it. You stop seeing discomfort as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. You begin to understand that every difficulty is shaping you into someone who can handle more. More pressure, more responsibility, more opportunity. And that's the paradox of growth. The more you endure, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the more life opens up to you, because life rewards those who are willing to face it fully, not those who hide from its weight. The next time fear whispers in your ear, remember this: fear only has power when you listen to it. When you act despite it, you take that power back. Every brave decision you make, every risk you take, every comfort you abandon, builds a new identity. You stop being the person who hesitates and become the person who acts. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I never try? That shift changes everything. It transforms fear into fuel. It turns doubt into drive. And in that moment, you're no longer average. You're unstoppable, because nothing can hold back the person who has learned to move through fear and rise anyway. When you finally face your fears and step into the unknown, something incredible begins to happen. You start to see who you really are. Not who you were told to be, not who you pretended to be, but who you've always been beneath the noise. You begin to recognize that the strength you were searching for was never out there. It was buried under years of doubt, expectation, and comparison. And when you strip all of that away, what's left is pure potential, limitless, untamed potential waiting for you to claim it. But you can't claim it by wishing. You claim it through action, through consistency, through the daily decision to show up as the person you were meant to become. Most people never meet that version of themselves because they stop digging too soon. They quit just before the breakthrough. They let fear convince them that struggle means failure when, in truth, struggle means progress. Growth always hides behind resistance. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign that you're off course. It's proof that you're on the right path. The mind resists change because it craves safety, and safety feels like control. But transformation is chaos. It's uncertain. It's uncomfortable. And that's why it's powerful. Because every time you choose to move forward, despite not knowing what comes next, you strengthen the belief that you can handle anything. That belief is freedom. That belief is the end of average. You were not created to stay the same. Everything in nature grows, adapts, evolves, and so must you. Stagnation is not peace, it's decay. The longer you stay still, the heavier your potential feels. But the moment you take one step toward your purpose, even the smallest step, the weight begins to lift. Energy returns, hope returns, vision returns. And suddenly you realize that all the limits you once believed in were self-imposed. The walls weren't real, they were mental. The door was always open, but fear blinded you from seeing it, and now that blindness is gone. You start to see that greatness is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. It's a mindset built through repetition, doing what most won't every single day. It's waking up and deciding to move with intention, even when no one is watching. It's building habits that align with the person you say you want to be. Because discipline without alignment is punishment, but discipline with purpose is liberation. When your actions match your vision, every day becomes meaningful, every sacrifice becomes sacred, every effort becomes an act of creation. The truth is, the version of you you're becoming already exists. You've seen glimpses of them in moments of strength, in flashes of courage, in the way your heart beats faster when you imagine what's possible. That's who you really are. You just have to stop living like they're a dream and start living like they're your reality. The moment you act like that version of yourself, even before the results appear, your life begins to change. Your energy shifts. Your choices align. And that alignment pulls opportunity toward you. You are not chasing greatness, you are remembering it. You are uncovering what was buried, rediscovering what was lost, and reclaiming what was always yours. You don't have to prove your worth, you just have to live it. Because once you see yourself as you truly are, powerful, capable, unstoppable, the idea of staying average no longer makes sense. It's not who you are anymore. And from this point forward, it never will be again. When you start to live as the person you were meant to be, the world begins to respond differently. You notice how energy shifts around you. Opportunities appear where there were none. People treat you differently. Doors open that once seemed sealed shut. But these changes don't happen because the world suddenly becomes easier. They happen because you become clearer. You stop operating from fear and you start operating from purpose. You stop chasing validation and you start moving from conviction. That's when life begins to flow in alignment with who you truly are. Because when you stand in your power, the universe mirrors it back. But standing in your power doesn't mean life will stop testing you. It means you'll stop breaking when it does. It means you'll meet pressure with presence, uncertainty with faith, and failure with focus. You'll start to realize that setbacks don't define you. Your response does. That's the difference between those who grow and those who give up. The ones who rise know that every challenge contains a lesson, every delay hides a blessing, and every failure plants the seed of strength. You learn to see beyond the moment, beyond the discomfort, beyond the pain. You begin to understand that everything is working for you, not against you. And that mindset alone transforms every struggle into a stepping stone. You've spent so much of your life running from difficulty, believing that peace meant avoiding pain. But peace isn't found in avoiding struggle, it's found in mastering it. Real peace comes when you know that no matter what happens, you can handle it. That's power, that's freedom. Because when you know your worth, when you've proven to yourself that you can rise after falling, you stop fearing failure altogether. You no longer see life as something to survive, you see it as something to conquer. Average people crumble under pressure because they expect the path to be easy. But the ones who rise, the ones who truly live, understand that growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. They don't avoid the fire, they walk through it. They don't shrink from challenges, they sharpen themselves with them. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. Every time you push forward, every time you choose effort over excuses, you're becoming stronger, more focused, more unshakable. You're not losing, you're learning. You're not failing, you're forging. Every scar, every setback, every sleepless night is proof that you're being shaped into something greater. And here's the beautiful truth. Once you realize your strength, you start to live differently. You stop begging for easy days. You stop asking for the storm to end. Instead, you start saying, give me the strength to face it. You begin to see pressure as privilege, Because pressure only exists where potential does. The greater your calling, the greater your tests. But you were built for this. You were built for the grind, for the resistance, for the moments that demand everything from you. Because every time life asks for more, it's revealing how much more you have to give. So don't run from the weight, carry it. Don't fear the climb, embrace it. The air is thinner at the top because few are willing to rise that high. But that's exactly where you're headed. You're not meant for the middle. You're not meant for the average. You're meant for the summit, the place where your effort meets your destiny. Keep moving, keep rising. The view you're climbing toward will be worth every ounce of struggle it takes to get there. The summit doesn't reward those who talk about climbing. It rewards those who keep climbing after everyone else stops. Most people give up halfway, not because they're weak, but because they don't realize how close they are to breaking through. The final stretch always feels the hardest, not because you're failing, but because you're transforming. That's the moment when everything in you resists, when the mind screams for rest, when the comfort of average starts calling your name again. But that's also the exact moment you must push harder, because what feels like the end is often the beginning of a new level of strength. You're not being tested to prove your limits, you're being tested to discover that you have none. Growth always costs something. It costs your excuses, your distractions, your comfort, your old identity. To become extraordinary, you have to be willing to let the old you die. The version that doubts, that hesitates, that plays it safe. That version can't come with you where you're going. The climb demands sacrifice. It demands discipline when motivation fades, faith when the path isn't clear, and resilience when results are slow. But each step forward, each ounce of effort, is rewriting the code of who you are. You're not just changing your circumstances, you're changing your DNA, your destiny, your entire direction. The world doesn't give greatness to the most talented. It gives it to the most committed. The ones who refuse to quit, who choose consistency over comfort, who keep going when no one's watching. Success is not about who has the most potential, it's about who has the most persistence. Every day you choose to rise, every time you silence the voice that says, stop, you're building something unbreakable inside you. That inner strength becomes your foundation, the part of you that doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't fold under failure, and doesn't need recognition to keep moving forward. You'll notice as you climb that you start caring less about what others think. The opinions, the comparisons, the noise, it all fades. Because when you're focused on becoming your best, there's no room left for validation. You don't need applause to know your worth. You don't need permission to rise. You realize that the only approval that matters is the one you give yourself when you know you gave everything. That's the quiet power of purpose. It makes you unstoppable from within. There will be moments when it feels lonely at the top of your effort. Don't mistake that loneliness for isolation. It's sacred space. The silence where greatness is forged. That's where focus sharpens, clarity deepens, and conviction strengthens. It's in that solitude that you meet the purest version of yourself, the one who doesn't need to prove anything, only to become everything. And when you finally reach that point, when you look back at how far you've climbed, you'll see that the reward was never just the view. It was who you became along the way. The discipline, the courage, the patience, the grit. Those were the real victories. Because once you've walked through fire and kept climbing, average doesn't even exist in your vocabulary anymore. You've outgrown it. You've evolved beyond it. You've become someone who no longer chases success. You embody it. And from this place, you don't just inspire others to climb. You prove that the summit was never the goal. The goal was to rise and keep rising, no matter what stood in your way. When you reach that level of strength, you begin to understand something few ever do. The real enemy was never failure, struggle, or pain. It was self-doubt, the quiet poison that convinces you to play small. The invisible hand that holds you back from your own potential. It whispers that you're not ready, that others are better, that your dream is too far, too hard, too late. But the truth is, self-doubt is just fear in disguise, trying to protect you from the unknown. And the moment you stop believing it, everything changes. You start realizing that doubt only has power when you feed it. The second you act despite it, it starves. It fades, it loses its hold. Because courage doesn't wait for confidence. Courage creates it. Every time you take a step through uncertainty, your brain rewires itself. It learns that fear is not danger. It learns that action is safety. This is how transformation happens. Not through sudden bursts of inspiration, but through repeated acts of defiance against your own limitations. Every small victory builds evidence. Every act of courage reinforces belief. Until one day, you look back and realize the person you used to be, the one who hesitated, who second-guessed, who settled, doesn't exist anymore. They were burned away in the fire of your persistence. And what remains is clarity, focus, power. You stop needing guarantees because you trust yourself to adapt. You stop waiting for motivation because discipline has taken its place. You stop chasing perfection because you understand that progress is what creates pride. That shift changes everything. Life no longer feels like a series of obstacles. It becomes a field of opportunities. The same challenges that once made you shrink now make you stronger. The same pain that once broke you now builds you. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You start saying, this is shaping me. That's the mindset of those who refuse to stay average. Average waits for confidence before taking action. The uncommon act, even when afraid. Because they know that courage is a muscle. It grows only when used. And the more you use it, the more unstoppable you become. You start stepping into rooms you once thought you didn't belong in. You start speaking ideas you once silenced. You start carrying yourself with quiet certainty, not arrogance, but awareness. The awareness that you've earned your strength. You've built it. You've bled for it. You've proven again and again that you can rise. There's nothing more powerful than a human being who truly believes in themselves. Not because the world told them to, but because they've walked through fire and seen that they can survive it. That kind of confidence can't be faked. It's built in the dark, when no one's watching, when it would have been easier to quit. That's the kind of strength that radiates, the kind that inspires others without saying a word. So when doubt shows up again, and it will, don't fight it. Acknowledge it, then move anyway. Let your actions speak louder than your fears. Let your effort drown out hesitation, because you've proven it before and you'll prove it again. You are not average. You never were. You were just becoming. Becoming the person who no longer asks for belief, but embodies it. The one who no longer looks for light, but is the light. And once you realize that, there's nothing left to fear, only everything left to become. There comes a point where belief turns into embodiment. You stop trying to convince yourself that you can, because you already are. You no longer wait for signs, approval, or motivation. You move with certainty, not because you know how everything will unfold, but because you finally trust yourself enough to face whatever comes. That's the turning point. When you no longer live from fear, but from faith in your own capacity. You start realizing that everything you once thought you needed, permission, perfection, validation, was just noise. The only thing you ever needed was to decide. Once that decision is made, life starts to align in ways you couldn't have imagined. The person who decides is unstoppable. Decision cuts through doubt. It silences hesitation. It transforms maybe someday into now. Because once your mind is made up, your energy shifts. You begin to attract clarity, people, and opportunities that match the level of your commitment. That's not magic. That's alignment. When your intention and your action move in the same direction, momentum builds. The impossible starts looking possible. You stop seeing limits and you start seeing leverage. The world hasn't changed, your focus has, and focus is power. Every extraordinary life is built on that kind of focus. the kind that refuses to be distracted by comfort or fear. You realize you can't rise and stay comfortable at the same time. You can't chase purpose and please everyone at once. You can't be extraordinary if you're still trying to fit into ordinary spaces. So you let go. You let go of the need to explain yourself. You let go of people who only love your potential but not your process. You let go of anything that dulls your fire. Because you finally understand that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. Your vision requires space to grow, and not everyone will be able to rise with you. At first, that letting go hurts. It feels like loss. But soon, you'll see that it's not loss, it's expansion. You're making room for what's next. You're creating space for the version of you that's been waiting to emerge. Growth always requires separation. Separation from who you were, from what no longer fits, from the noise that kept you small. And while that separation can feel lonely, it's the birthplace of transformation. The silence you fear is where your power begins to speak. The solitude you resist is where your strength starts to grow roots. You begin to understand that your journey was never meant to be crowded. Not everyone will understand the fire that drives you, and they don't have to. This path isn't about proving your worth to others. It's about proving your potential to yourself. You don't need applause when you're in alignment. You don't need validation when you know your vision. That's what true freedom feels like. Not escaping life, but mastering it. Living with such clarity and conviction that nothing external can shake your foundation. And when you reach that place, when your focus becomes stronger than your fear, life begins to open wide. Doors that once seemed closed respond to your energy. People who once doubted you start to notice your growth, but by then, their opinions don't matter anymore because you've already become everything they couldn't see. You've turned your doubt into drive, your pain into purpose, and your potential into power. You've proven what average minds said was impossible. You didn't just rise, you transformed. And now there's no going back. Once you've reached the point where nothing external defines your worth, the game changes. You stop chasing outcomes and start mastering the process. You no longer seek motivation from the outside because you've built it from the inside. You understand now that greatness doesn't show up in grand gestures or loud announcements. It's built quietly, one disciplined choice at a time. It's the way you show up when no one's watching. It's the effort you put in when there's no reward in sight. That's where the extraordinary is born. Not in moments of recognition, but in moments of repetition. The truth is, success isn't found in what you do occasionally. It's built in what you do consistently. Every morning you rise before comfort calls you back to bed. Every time you push past the voice that whispers, "Not today." Every decision to keep moving forward, no matter how small it seems, that's the foundation of transformation. The mind begins to change when it learns that resistance doesn't mean stop. It means grow. You stop running from discomfort and start using it. Pain becomes your teacher, not your enemy. Discipline becomes your freedom, not your cage. You begin to realize that the people who rise aren't the ones with the easiest path. They're the ones who refuse to quit walking it. And this is where most people give up. They crave results but avoid resistance. They want progress without pressure, growth without grind. But that's not how greatness works. Growth demands a price. Your comfort, your excuses, your limits. Every time you stretch beyond what feels easy, you're rewriting who you are. You're teaching your mind that it can survive the struggle. You're training your spirit to stay calm in chaos. You're building a foundation so strong that even when everything shakes, you don't break. That's what separates the average from the unstoppable. Not talent, not luck, but endurance. The willingness to keep showing up when the spark fades, when motivation dies, when no one else believes. That's when you meet your real self. Not the version that talks about dreams, but the one that acts on them. You discover a power that was always there, buried under doubt and delay. You stop waiting for the right time and realize that the right time is whenever you choose to start. You stop worrying about what others think because you've already proven something far greater, that you're willing to do the work they're not. And that's what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers talk about change. Doers become it. And when you start becoming it, everything changes. You feel stronger, clearer, more alive. The fire that once flickered starts to burn steady. You realize you don't need constant hype. You've built habits. You don't need external validation. You've built vision. Every small win fuels your momentum, and every setback strengthens your resolve. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. Every action becomes a statement. I'm not who I was, and I'm not going back. That's the power of transformation. It doesn't happen all at once, but it happens for those who refuse to stop moving. And while the world may not see your progress yet, it's happening beneath the surface. You're becoming something unshakable, something undeniable. The kind of person who doesn't just rise once, but rises every single day. Not because it's easy, but because staying average is no longer an option.